Hi, I'm David Stoker, and I want to welcome you to the Better Life in Recovery #HopeDealer Movement podcast. As a visible and vocal member of the recovery community since 2009, I'm frequently asked questions and for advice from people all the time. Some are curious, some are still using, some are in recovery, and some people just care about somebody who's currently struggling with a hurt habit or hang-up. If people in my community have those questions, I guarantee that people everywhere are looking for answers as well. We started this podcast to give you answers and support, because not only is recovery real, it is amazing. Hope you enjoy the show. This week we will be doing 10 questions with someone in recovery. And I just happened to be in Las Vegas for the Mobilized Recovery event. So I'm actually getting to talk to somebody that I've been friends with on Facebook for several years and never actually got to meet in person. So Randy, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, good morning, David, and thank you for having me on your show. I think it's a great opportunity. I think it's so. I just have first start saying just being in Vegas is really a cool thing. I think for some of us, it maybe brings back some old memories about our recovery. For me, for sure, I used to spend a lot of time in Vegas. But yeah, this, if not for things like podcasts and social media and all that stuff, I wouldn't meet so many amazing people like you. So I really appreciate it. So my name is Randy Anderson, and I'm a person in long-term recovery. And what that means to me is I haven't had to use alcohol or drugs or mood-altering substance since January 9, 2005. And because of my recovery, I'm able to accomplish just like things I never thought I would do in my life. I mean, one of the things I'm most proud of in my state is I've been training and doing naloxone trainings for about 5 years now. I haven't kept good track, but I guess I've had facilitated over 1,000 trainings, trained 10,000 people, distributed over 20,000 naloxone kits.
Holy cow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's like, to me, that's why I'll start with that, because I think that, especially with the current situation we're in our country, like, it's amazing. We just found out this last week that our death numbers are dropping for the first time, and since it started.
Right.
So I'm going to take some credit and say I think because of that. But also, because of my recovery, I'm able to have healthy relationships. I'm in a great marriage to someone that I love and I communicate well with. I own a home. I vote. I pay taxes. I do all those things that normal people do. But really, none of that would be possible without recovery. I also always like to mention that I'm also a formerly incarcerated person. So I was sentenced to 87 months in prison as a first-time nonviolent drug offender with no criminal history. And I think that's important that always to kind of talk about, because our criminal justice system intertwines with substance use disorder. It almost in every case. It's almost, right. Almost every case. It's really, if you got arrested, maybe you didn't get charged. But somehow in your substance use disorder, you had some type of engagement with the justice system. And I think so it's important to talk about that. So because of that, my life experience and lived experiences, though, I've been able to just do incredible things in my state. One of the things I'm most proud of from the criminal justice aspect is I was able to help in our state. We we started in 2015. We ended in 2016 in the law went into effect, but we changed our drug sentencing guidelines. And with those changes, 700 less people go to prison. 700 less people go to prison every year in my state because I was able to help with that. And so that's something I'm really proud of. They actually, those are people with substance use disorder, right? And they get screened for substance use disorder, and they get to go get help first before being sent to jail or prison, where we know there's not a lot of help available, right? It's getting better in some places, but majority, it's still not a place you want to send someone with a disease. So I'm really proud of that. So I guess that's probably the stuff that's really important to introduce myself as. As you know, David, I've worked on and been part of so many things in my life already, and in my 5 short years of advocacy work. So I'm just that's just the tip of the iceberg for me, but it's really important stuff. So
yeah, I think sometimes that's an important thing that sometimes gets glossed over too. Is prison is not a good place for somebody to go to rehabilitate.
No, there's a myth, I think, that most of the public has that in general, that people that go to prison get some type rehabilitated or rehabilitation. And honestly, not in my experience, that doesn't occur for most people. If you're someone that goes to prison and you still have motivation, which let me tell you, going to prison is like a motivation sucker.
Right.
You go there. I remember I just went into a deep state of depression. Like I didn't want to do anything. So those, though, that go there that, somehow maintain a positive attitude or maybe get their positive attitude back. I mean, they can do in where I was at, in the prisons I was at, you could do correspondence classes. So they could, if they had money, again, that came down to privilege though. So if you came from a family that had money or you had some type of privilege, you were able to afford to order books and do these steps, so those are the only kind. That's the only kind of. I mean, they wanted me to take a class. I didn't have a GED, so they wanted me to take GED classes, and I refused. And of course, then they threaten you. We're going to throw you in the hole. We're going to take away good time. We're going to transfer you to another prison. All this stuff. We went round and round, and finally, they just let me take the test, and I passed the test. So I got my GED while I was in prison. But that's the kind of things they like and it's not a bad thing. So first of all, having my GED, I'm grateful I got it. But the way they kind of go about it is they wanted me to take a class on how to balance a checkbook. Like I've ran businesses, I've run 50-man crew. I know how to balance a checkbook. Right. Like that's not what I need. It's not tailored to an individual. If there is any kind of education, it's just a blanket education, that's not helpful. That's not rehabilitation. So yeah, that's a big myth.
And you're fortunate or unfortunate, depending on how you look at it, you did Fed time too, which means you had to do a much larger portion of your sentence for a first-time offender.
Yeah, so the difference in my state between doing Fed time and state time, so if you're a state charged person, you do 65% of your time, so 2/3 about of your time. Federal, on the other hand, you do 85% of your time. So it's a much different sentence. So here again, though, I was very blessed in a lot of ways. One way is that I'm a middle-aged white guy, and I was sentenced during the time when the crack cocaine and cocaine epidemic that we had, and I noticed when I was in prison that people that didn't look like me, specifically not white people that were in prison with sentence or charges similar to mine, got sentenced to much greater time than I did, which was like, wow, what? It was shocking. And I also so then when I was incarcerated, they changed the crack cocaine and the powder cocaine law. So they took away the disparities between the two. Which was a total racist thing. They assumed only black people smoke crack, and that's why we should charge them with more time. But they did change that, and so I got 2 levels knocked off of my sentence because of that. And I took, even though I went to a long-term residential treatment program before prison, thank God, and I found recovery, and I was able to maintain that. I went to prison sober. But I still was eligible for their RDAP program, so Residential Drug Abuse Program, and I could get up to a year off my sentence. No one gets a year off their sentence, right? But I did get 6 months off. So really, honestly, I served behind bars a total with some county jail and halfway house time about 60 months. And that literally, to me, when I look back on what I could have done, my total charges with everything I had was 156 months. So I would say I was blessed. A lot of people look at me like you're crazy. You say you're blessed. You spent 5 years in prison. Yeah, but the other end of that was a lot worse.
Unfortunately, fortunate.
Right, exactly.
Okay. So, and I also want to call attention to a couple other things that you've been able to do. One of them is pretty, I don't know, I was going to use the word nifty. I feel like I'm in the 50s now. I have no idea what's going on here. Maybe it's being in Vegas. It's the old crime rubbing off on me.
Westgate, which is older than the hills.
Right. But you guys in Minnesota were able to get a tax added to prescription opioids. Tell me a little bit about that and what the tax is going to go to in your state.
Yeah, sir. First, I'd just like to say we didn't. It's not a tax. I think that's one thing a lot of people. It's okay. No, it's good you say that because that's what a lot of people are calling it. And I'm not here to tote party lines, but that's what the Republicans called it. Because obviously they don't like new taxes. And really, does anyone like new taxes? I don't think so. I'm not, what we did is we ended up doing is it took 3 years, but thank God we did it. We ended up increasing licensing fees mainly for opioid manufacturers and distributors. So what we're able to do is prior to this bill we passed and got signed, if you were a narcotic manufacturer in the state of Minnesota or a distributor, you paid a licensing fee of $235. I am a licensed. That's it, right? Yes, I'm a licensed alcohol and drug counselor, and to renew my license with my CEUs costs twice that every year.
Right.
And so it was ridiculous to think they could make millions of dollars off of these narcotic drugs and medications, and they only paid $235. So what we did is we were able to increase their licensing fees, but we also increased licensing fees for pharmacists, doctors, other areas. Not a lot. And the doctors got really pissed. Can I say pissed on the podcast?
Yeah.
The doctors got really mad. They they so it was only like $25 increase on their license, and yet they pushed back. And I understand why they pushed back. I mean the hospitals really did, because the hospitals pay their licensing fees. And so $25 on 1,000 doctors, and I guess that can add up really quickly.
Right.
Whatever, they're part of the problem, right? So we wanted to make sure everyone that was part of creating the opioid epidemic was part of the solutions in fixing the opioid epidemic. So all in all, when we increased all those licensing fees, we're able to collect about $21 million a year just off increased licensing fees, which is amazing, right? And we did, there was a lot of negotiation. One clause we put in there that we didn't want, but the Republicans want. So a compromise is what it takes sometimes to pass a bill. So we did put a sunset in that bill, so that means, 5 years, if we collect $250 million in combined money from licensing fee increases or lawsuit or litigation, that once it hits $250 million, we will sunset the fee to a reduced fee, not sunset it completely. So right now there will be about $55,000 each for the high end of those manufacturers. Right. One will pay $300,000 because that's how much business they do in Minnesota, and they'll all go down to $5,000, and then all the rest stay the same. Even after it sunsets, we'll still be collecting $13 million a year. So, and that's paid for directly by the people that caused this epidemic. So that was really cool. First one in the country. New York passed a law very similar to that, but theirs got rejected. But Delaware then passed one right after we did. So there's already been 2 states now that did it. And I've been in communication with a dozen states that are like, how do we do this? So
yeah, absolutely. And that money's earmarked for.
So $10 million a year will go to the counties. So that's a minute amount of money. I get that. We have 87 counties in Minnesota. Right. So it's very little, but it is, it's for targeted towards out-of-home placement because of people with substance use disorder, not just opioid addiction, but substance use disorder. So that money will go to help offset those costs. And then the other $2 million is earmarked for healing grants for the tribes. And then $8 million is actually through a grant process that people can apply for. And this is my favorite part of the whole bill, is we developed a 19-person advisory council. And those are people that will determine how that $8 million is spent. And we wrote it into the bill that any money we receive from lawsuit or litigations will go into that same fund. And the advisory council gets to decide how it's spent. So
and who's on that council?
So it's a list of 2 senators, 2 House of Representatives, Republican, Democrat, 2 tribe members, a pain patient, a pain doctor, a person that represents the treatment community, a person that represents there's just a host. I'm really proud of that part of that. So I wrote an amendment, my first and only amendment, and it got added. So the original language had 2 pain patients in there, and I met with one of my senators. One of the authors. I said, really, I appreciate that. I think it's a good idea to have that voice at the table. Where's recovery? Right? Where's the recovery voice? And so I was able to get an amendment. We took out 1 pain patient, and we added a person in recovery from opioid use disorder. And so 1 person on there will be a person in recovery from opioid use disorder. That to me is a win. I got my first and only, because we all know recovery voices are often left out of the conversation, or we have. So at least we're in there. Hey, we're finding got our foot in the door, and we'll be helped to make those decisions. So that's the gist of the bill, or how it's set up. So. Okay.
Yeah, because it's kind of that whole nothing about us without us.
Correct. Vibe, right? Either had a seat at the table or you're on the menu. I think that's so we've been saying that this 2 days here a lot.
I did like that addendum that I don't remember who had it, but she said your other option is to create your own table.
Right. Yeah. Jesse Heffernan.
Okay, but that takes power.
Oh my God!
And unfortunately, a lot of times it takes power and money, and those are 2 things, and 3 things that a lot of people don't have. Most people that are advocates, this isn't what we're not advocates for a living, right? We're peers, we're recovery coaches, we're therapists, we're CS, community support workers, community support specialists. Consultants, we have these different things that we have to do that take up a lot of our time. So
pay our bills.
Yeah, we don't have people that can just focus on that. Right. I think I know 1 lobbyist in DC that is kind of focused on recovery, which would be Carol McDade.
We all are here. I'm my hero as far as I'm concerned. Right.
Yeah. So the other thing that you did was I believe I saw you on TV on C-SPAN.
C-SPAN. So. Yeah, that was a pretty cool thing. So January 2017, 18, I found out that a partnership had been created between Addiction Policy Forum and PhRMA, which is an acronym PHRMA, Pharmaceutical Research Manufacturers of America. They're the lobbying branch of the entire pharmaceutical industry. Okay. Their board is made up of a member from all of the pharmaceutical companies like Purdue Pharma, Johnson & Johnson, Alchemy. Right. They're all on that. They flow money into that organization to lobby around the country. And
so it's a big organization.
Yeah, to say the least. I looked at their 990s again a few weeks ago, and $465 million budget or income is what they had in 2017.
And all they do is
lobby. They lobby. That's their primary goal.
$500 million.
Yeah, $500 million a year. Just that one organization gets.
Wow.
Yeah. So they gave this Addiction Policy Forum a bunch of money. In fact, $3.85 million in 2017. We don't know how much yet for 2018. That's what we've been asking since. That's what I've been asking since I found out. So in March of 2018, in fact, 2 or 3 days after my birthday, I had someone had called me and said, "Hey, Randy, the CEO of Addiction Policy Forum is testifying in front of the Energy and Commerce Committee in D.C. And I know the work you've been doing because I found out a lot of stuff about them. You should fly out there and disrupt the hearing." And I said, "I'm not a disruptor. Like, I testify to hearings. I've never disrupted. In fact, I get mad when people disrupt hearings. I think how disrespectful is that?
How rude.
Yeah, rude. Like, this is like, I didn't know what that meant until this came up, and I Googled how to disrupt a congressional hearing. You'd be surprised.
So there's a way to do it.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. So there is a way to do it. I got
like a wiki how-to?
Yeah.
Or?
Well, I watched the videos, and I watched the ways not to do it. So don't wear a chicken suit and jump around like an idiot. You can. You get arrested really quickly and hauled off to jail. What I did, I knew I could still be arrested for, but I did talk to a few people that were friends of mine that had experience in that world. And so they told me how to do it. They said, so create a one-pager with like your name and your bullet points on it, because in case you do get arrested, you can hand that to reporters or anyone that might be interested. Have some type of protest ready. So I made a sign that I folded up into a backpack. So I flew out, and it was a snowstorm, and I missed 2 flights. I finally landed in D.C. at like 1:30 in the morning, and this thing starts at 8. That's motel, 2 in the morning, 2:30. 3-4 hours of sleep, and here I sat. And then the first 3 hours was this complete other testimony from another group of people. It was all around opioids, though. It was 2 days of hearings. Well, then came this panel. In fact, it's very ironic because in that room was Ryan Hampton, Garrett Haid, and Carol McDade. They were all there with Ryan. He was testifying in the same panel. Ryan and I only knew each other through social media at that time. We weren't really friends yet. I didn't want to acknowledge him. I didn't want anyone to think he may be involved in it. And Carol saw me, and I could see it. Like, we pretended we didn't know each other, even though we did. She probably was wondering what I was.
She was forewarned, or no?
No, she was probably just wondering what I was doing there, why I was in D.C. So, anyways, the person came up to speak, and as soon as she said one word, "Hi, I'm Jessica Nickel from the Addiction," I stood up, I pulled my sign out of my backpack, unfolded it, and the first thing out of my mouth, where I said, "Pardon me, Mr. Chairman and committee members, I apologize for the disruption I'm about to cause."
Well, it was nice of you.
Right, exactly. The C-SPAN camera, then I saw it turn over to me, and I just started going into this rant. So I want to know, I flew here today to ask how much money has Addiction Policy Forum received from the pharmaceutical industry. Like, you came to my state, you tried to disrupt and kill our legislation, have secret meetings with our legislators, create a blueprint for our state that was just copy and pasted from all of the hard work we've already been doing and make it look like yours. I said, I'm here to find that out. And I got about a minute and a half. It's on C-SPAN. I titled it. C-SPAN is really cool. You can clip videos out of it. You can retitle them, whatever you want to do. So I clipped my portion out. It's called Civil Disobedience 1.1. And it's about a minute, 30 seconds long. Eventually, when the chairman said, "Can I get Capitol Police to help us get Mr. Anderson or the gentleman removed from the hearing room," I decided to leave. I walked out the door. The Rayburn building I was right in the middle. It's 2 long hallways, one each direction. As the exit is right across. I was heading out the exit. 2 reporters chased after me out of the room, grabbed me. I whipped out my one-pager, handing it to them because I thought, I'm going to get arrested because there was a Capitol Police running from each direction. They got to the door of the hearing room. The staffer pointed at me and said, "That's the guy." They turned around, looked at me. I was talking to reporters. And
on camera.
Yep, right. The Capitol Police decided that I was no longer a threat, I guess, because they walked away. So I did the quick interview with the reporters, and then I left and I flew home. I had some pizza and one of my favorite pizza places in D.C., and I got on a plane and flew back home. So it was a quick turn and burn trip. The beauty of that, so the idea of that disruption was so I didn't want someone that is accepting pharmaceutical money to lobby Congress to spend my tax dollars.
Right.
I mean, that you're telling someone to spend my money and you're getting paid by the people that created the problem. That's not right in my book. Like, there's something wrong with that. And so at the end of the 2 days, there was a report, or they put out an overview of there was 2 days of hearings. And I got a copy of it. Someone, of course, I think it was Carol, actually. I said after she called me right away. Oh my God, I can't believe what you just did. And so she gave me the report. And nowhere in that 6-page report, addiction policy forum wasn't mentioned, and the testimony of her was left out completely. So mission accomplished.
Right.
I mean, that's the goal, was not to have her and that organization influence our leaders, our elected officials. And it worked, I think. I mean, at least for a minute.
And it's kind of sad. I mean, I don't like to disparage any companies, but I mean, I think there should definitely be some kind of transparency. Like, I have a nonprofit, and anybody can ask.
Right.
If anybody asks, where's your money coming from? I can sit there and hand them something that says, and of course, we're nowhere near as big as Addiction Policy Forum because I don't take money from a lot of different companies. I'm very picky about who I take any kind of funding from. As far as like pharmaceutical companies, there's been some bottlers of alcohol that have wanted to donate and have their logo on stuff. And I'm like, I don't think that a beer mug with your name on it is going to look really good on the back of a 5K recovery run T-shirt.
Absolutely. 100%. And if people say to me, Randy, what do? We just don't take the money. So I said, no, I didn't say that. So there are ways to get the money without having to do it in an unethical manner. And so I said, two of the best ways are through legislation, which Minnesota just did, or litigation, right? The litigation part, of course, makes me worry because, like, now I just read yesterday, the second largest buprenorphine manufacturer got the Department of Justice made a settlement of $1.4 billion.
Yeah.
Where is that money going to go? Do you think you and I will see any of that money?
No, and I think that's one of the problems I've seen a lot of times where, like, say, in Missouri, we had money that was earmarked from the lottery. They're like, we're going to take this money from the lottery and it's going to go to education.
Right.
Now, they were honest. That money went to education, but the budget shrunk. So literally education isn't getting a whole lot more than it used to get before. Now it's just coming from the lottery instead of coming from other places.
Absolutely. And that's what we should be worried about. And I'm hoping this mobilized recovery will be part of that. And I know we got they have a lot of work to do to get everything set up, but we have to be very mindful when this money comes into our states. We need to make sure it gets to the people that are going to have the greatest impact. And that's us, David. I mean, that's the people on the street doing the work, the prevention, the treatment centers, recovery support services. Though it's not going to get there, though. And that's the part that the Department of Justice is going to keep that money. There'll be some grants made out and whatever, but they're going to. I mean, I just read the Pentagon has misplaced $21 trillion or something over 6 or 10 years, whatever it was. And our defense budget signed yesterday or voted on yesterday by our Congress, $725 billion they spent on defense budget. $80 billion a year on the prison system. I mean, oh my God, there's so much money there that we should be investing other ways, and we're not. So when I saw that, I was glad that the pharmaceutical company, largest settlement in history, well, I'm glad. That's awesome.
Right.
But now where's I think that's our job, is like we need to contact our senators, our congressmen, and say, hey, the Department of Justice got this money. Because they're not going to know. I see that unless they're really involved, which there's a few that are. Senator Warren, Senator Klobuchar, McKesson from New Hampshire, another great one, Maggie Hessen. So there's some, but most of them in general won't even know that happened. But if we don't let them know and tell them to look into it, we're failing. Then we're not helping either. So I could go on a soapbox about that for a while. So.
Well, and I really think I'll steal a John Shinholzer couple words that he pieces together when he says the authentic recovery. I wish I could do accents, but he says
the old man.
That's the old man from Virginia accent.
Southern accent, Virginia. So yeah, he's awesome.
But yeah, the authentic recovery community. I mean, literally, we don't get anything. I mean, most states don't get earmarked. I know, like my state, I think 80% of the block grant goes to treatment, 20% goes to prevention, and there's nothing earmarked that goes straight to recovery.
Even all that opioid money that came through when Trump first came into office, which, honestly, I mean, a lot of people don't like Trump, and I have reasons not to like him too. He has signed legislation that has given us more funding for addiction than any other president. However, even in that bill, originally there was, I don't remember the exact amount, but I think it was $7 million to go over to recovery support services, and it got whittled down to like less than $1 million. I mean, and think about, so let's divide that into the country.
50 states.
Yeah, right, yeah. And so I'll take my 10 cents in cash, please.
Yeah.
I mean, that's about how I feel about it.
Well, I talk about that even with, it was like $1.5 billion, something like that was originally in it over 2 years.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that sounds like a lot of money, but if you break it down to there's 22 million people with an active substance use disorder, it's like $25 each a year.
Give them a check. Here's your $25 check, right? It's ridiculous. Me and Chad talk a lot about that.
Pick what treatment center you want to drive by.
Right.
Because that's really all you're going to be able to do.
You get your tank full of gas, your Uber ride. Yeah.
So now I'm going to jump into some of those questions. Yeah. So why did you start using to begin with?
So for me, I think, I really was a adolescent, teenage, experimental peer pressure. Like I remember the first time I got drunk, which really was for me probably the moment that turned on the light switch in my head. That when I'm one of the unlucky Americans of the 10 people that has a substance use disorder, right. And I realize now why. I mean, I was adopted at birth, and my entire birth family I met when I was 23, and every one of them has a substance use issue. Like. I'm screwed, David.
Right.
I'm absolutely screwed. But anyways, I remember getting drunk. I was dropped off. My parents dropped me off at a friend's graduation party. I was 13, 14 years old. And of course, they're all 18 graduates there. Big. Right. So I walk into the house. They're playing a game, a drinking game called Quarters, which many of us are probably familiar with.
Yeah.
I wasn't at the time, but they're like, "Oh, sit down, Randy." Join. And they were drinking Bartles and James original wine coolers, which maybe that's another kind of dates me or tells you how old I am. But anyways, I started playing this game, which I'm good at. I'm athletic. I'm coordinated, so I got really good at it. But no matter what, that game's meant for everyone to drink heavily, right? And so I don't know how many Bartles and James I had. I pretty much blacked out. The last thing I remember is getting up to go to the bathroom, and I fell on the ground, and I don't remember what happened after that. And I woke up in my bed at home. Apparently, I had stumbled out of the house after maybe going to the bathroom or not. No one really knows. I was walking down the main drag in my town, but I was going the wrong direction. I was heading into Crystal, Minnesota instead of towards Golden Valley. But a Golden Valley cop saw me, and he knew me, and he stopped, picked me up, and brought me home. And I think that why that story is so important is the next morning, of course, I woke up, and my mom was like, "You're so lucky." I'm like, "Why?" Because you were so drunk. And we knew you were out of it, and Dad just yelled at you. He didn't. My mom probably said he didn't spank you because you were. So I thought, wow, I don't know. I don't think I thought this consciously, but unconsciously I thought, so this is how I don't feel pain anymore. Like, right. I just get drunk or whatever, So I think that's what started it. Like, honestly, I think that was really, of course I progressed into, from alcohol to marijuana. And then when I finally met cocaine in my early 20s, she was it.
Game on.
That was the end of all the other drugs, and I started a heavy relationship with cocaine. But yeah.
Okay. So why'd you decide to stop? What happened? What kind of planted that seed?
So I always tell people all the time, although I don't think of course, you heard me earlier. We were talking about the justice system and how we kind of criticized it, maybe. However, I always tell people a criminal justice intervention saved my life. So I was selling drugs. It was in 2004. I had been, I had a business. I was successful. I had a good construction company. I was making good money. Of course, as you start to make more money, especially with cocaine, you start to use more drugs. And eventually it flopped to where I really wasn't running a business. I ran myself into the ground basically, and then I started selling it. I said, well, I know all these people that always want drugs.
Right.
Easy transition. I'll just start selling it to pay my bills and to get high. And I started selling it. I literally did that for a year and a few months. And one day in 2004, in fact, July 23rd, 2004, never forget that day. I just went out to buy my sister a lawnmower. She had called and said, "Hey, my lawnmower broke," and I had plenty of money. Like it was like drug sales were good.
Right.
I had plenty of money. I went and bought a lawnmower. I came home after that, pulled up my parking lot, and in my condominium building where I lived, and about 15 cars surrounded my car, and bulletproof vest on, and DEA, and it was guns everywhere, and I don't. Most of it's a blur. I remember them getting me out of the vehicle, like you see on the shows where, with your right hand, reach across your body and open your door, and then down on your knees. And then, of course, they push you to the ground and cuff you and stuff you. And that started my journey towards recovery, though, because then I went to jail. I got out. I started using again, got rearrested because I violated the conditions of my release. But then my sister who had said, "Hey, you should go have assessment done."
Right.
They still call it chemical health assessments, which I hate the word chemical health assessment, but we're still working.
Are your chemicals healthy?
Right. We're working on language still, all over the country. Chemical dependency counselor, like it just can't still makes my skin crawl. Anyways, so I got an assessment done while I was incarcerated. They said, "Yep, you're eligible for treatment," and they let me go to treatment. I thought they're going to let me out of jail. Like I thought this is amazing. Like
right.
I don't really want to go to get sober though.
Like I'm not getting in trouble.
Yeah, I thought this is cool. I can go and pretend and fake it. Right, I'm a smart guy. So anyways, I went to treatment, relapsed, brought drugs to a treatment center, got high in the treatment center, got kicked out, got sent back to prison or county jail. Excuse me, not prison. By the blessing of God or whatever your God of understanding is, they let me come back to treatment, and I did the long-term residential program, and I completed that. I always say it took me 10 months to complete a 60-day program.
Gilligan's Island.
Yeah, right. But it's and we talk about this a lot in our space, David. Like that's what helps people long-term. The longer we engage people in the process, the better odds they have at recovery. So anyway, so I did that, and then in July 6th, right after the 4th, right after the 4th, I went and got sentenced for my crimes. I had now been in recovery, abstinence-based recovery since January of that year. So it'd been 7 months. I felt pretty good. I was starting to get my life back, it felt like. I was volunteering. I wasn't really working a lot yet because I had a business that I ran to the ground, not really, it doesn't come back overnight. I was doing some cash jobs with some people and stuff here and there, but I got sentenced, and that was probably, I would say, the worst day of my life was going to that courtroom, and the judge was like, "Mr. Anderson, how are you today?" And I said, "I'm fine." He's like, they're trying to make small talk. It's kind of funny to me. This wasn't like a treatment court situation where they actually use motivational interviewing and treat you like a human. And I said, he goes, "I've read all the letters from the community. I see you're volunteering. You completed treatment after a little mishap." He made sure he brought that up. And then he said, "Because of all that great work, I'm going to sentence you to the lowest level on your level, like the lowest amount of months time." So that's right. Like I remember seeing this, we call it the staircase. Those of us that are familiar with the justice system, like where do you fall on the staircase? And I knew I was like a level 32, so I knew this was pretty high on the staircase. So he said, "I'm going to sentence you to I'm going to sentence you to the lowest level on your stair." So it's 87 months in prison. And I really literally thought, what? I'm not 7 years? Like what? 7+ years? Of course I started crying immediately, and I thought this is what our country does to people. Like I'm on a right path now, and now you're going to send me off to. So, anyways, but yeah, that's what did it for me. Like, so that's where I remember leaving the courthouse that day, and I called my counselor at the treatment center, and I said, "Mark, I'm going to go use." And he's like, "What happened?" I told him what happened. He's like, "Just come here, have coffee with me." I said, "No, because I know you're going to try to talk me out of this, and I don't see a reason not to go use right now." Anyways, he convinced me to come have coffee with him, and that's a really strange
ninja counselor skills, huh?
Right. I'm like, thank God I had a good counselor. I'm just telling you that a guy I could relate to that had been to prison. That that's what I also if it wasn't for my family counseling and him, I don't know what I would have done. But anyways, we had coffee. And the funny thing is about that, I remember pulling in front of the treatment center, and there's like street parking. I parked right in front, and I went in the building, and I don't know what happened because I can't remember what happened after that. There's a whole then I left. I remember leaving the building. I don't remember how long I was there. I don't remember the conversation we had. But what I do remember the most from that day is I didn't go get high.
Right.
And that's weird that I can't I don't know what we talked about. I cannot. It's like I don't know, and that's weird to me.
It's probably a trauma response.
Probably, I've got to be something blocked out there. I don't know why, but why. But yeah, whatever that conversation was, it was enough to convince me not to go get high that day. And I've been in recovery, still stayed in recovery ever since.
So what does recovery mean to you?
Recovery means to me that I'm healthy again. I have good relationships. I'm not using drugs or alcohol in any way. I could clarify that. So yes, I still drink coffee and have caffeine, which I do think is a drug. I'm not going to deny that for a second. I did finally quit smoking. I smoked cigarettes for 27 years. I quit 7 years ago on my anniversary, on my wedding day. So those are all drugs, right?
Right.
But I for me, it means I'm abstinent from mind or mood altering substances, and that doesn't mean medications. I mean, so I haven't been prescribed any narcotics, thank God, since I've been in recovery. Right. That's going to be a bridge to cross someday because I'm getting older and I have to have surgeries on knees and stuff like that. So, but it means to me just getting my life back, and what I people ask me this question all the time, what is recovery? I can really say it in one word: freedom. And it's not freedom from prison. I mean, it is, but it's not just freedom from prison. It's freedom from being sick. It's freedom from being broke. It's freedom from not communicating in a healthy way with people that I love in my life. It's freedom from unhealthy relationships. It's freedom from illness. I mean, it's freedom. So that's what recovery means to me.
Okay. So I'd ask you what were the things that got you into recovery to begin with, but I think we've kind of already covered that, really.
Sounds like it. Yep. I think between the criminal justice system and you know what, this part I want to make sure I talk about, and maybe you asked this question, but also thank God my state has a good treatment system, because I didn't pay a dime for my treatment. We have a consolidated treatment fund there that is paid for some legislation and through counties funding and this. So
that's awesome.
I got 10 months, and I would have got longer if I didn't go to prison, of free treatment. And
wow.
Right. In a residential, outpatient first, but residential treatment system where, I mean, I know now what it costs because I worked there.
Right.
So I got $30,000 or more worth of services for free because my state has a good treatment center. And I'm not going to lie, it's because, I mean, there's probably some privilege involved there. Because I'm white. I don't live in a lower a neighborhood that is a lower economic status, things like that. So, but really, that's what we've been talking about. My friend Andrew Berkey, everyone needs to have that say. That's why Andrew will tell you all the time, because he got to go to treatment for free. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen in this country enough.
Right. Everyone do.
Yeah.
It's anymore, a lot of residentials are 10 to 14 days.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah. Or that wash, rinse, repeat. 28-day cycle, which we know doesn't work. I mean,
well, you talked about it earlier. The longer somebody's engaged, the less likely they are to go back to old behaviors.
Yep. Yep. So, yeah.
So in early recovery, I mean, you were in prison.
Yeah.
But there's still drugs of it. I mean, I was in prison and I could still get drugs in prison. So what's the one thing that helped you maintain your recovery the most?
People. So connecting with people that didn't want to use drugs. So in prison, I mean, that's the easiest way to say it. So you're right. I was incarcerated. My longest piece was in Waseca Federal Prison in southern Minnesota. And it was called an FCI, so Federal Correctional Institute, low security. We still did double fence, 20 feet high, barbed wire.
Right.
I mean, you're on an island still in the middle of Waseca. But anyways, and it was an old University of Minnesota horticulture college. And so there were just dorm rooms. So we lived there was, dorms in the bay. I mean, we lived in dorm rooms, so 4 people to a 15 by 15 room. We were pretty tight quarters. But anyways, and there were drugs literally in the next room. I knew guys that were involved in the drug trade and how it worked in the prison system. It gets in there so easily. It's ridiculous. Especially at a place like that, their main way to get in here, I'm going to divulge a little prison secret. So that prison is located right on the edge of town. So you through one of the fences, you could see houses. And what they did is they would get people in the community, they'd pay them a lot of money, and they'd take racquetballs and they put a slit into the racquetball with a razor knife. And those old coin purses, you squeeze them and they open up. So same thing happens to the racquetball. So they'd open it up, they'd fill it full of whatever, a lot of tobacco, because tobacco became illegal in prison. But tobacco, drug, whatever you want. And then they just chuck them over the fence. And you'd see, it was hilarious. So I worked a yard crew, and I actually was involved with it for a very short period of time. And then I decided this is too dangerous and I don't want to go back to to higher
I don't need more time.
Right. So, but you'd see 20 racquetballs fly over the fence, and you'd collect them, put them in your bucket, cover them with leaves and grass, and bring them back into the prison. Really easy. So drugs were readily available. Of course, they're only available to people that have the money. Because it's way more expensive. Unbelievably more expensive. But I made the decision, no matter what, I wasn't going to use, but people did it for me. So when I got to prison, I connected with people that didn't use drugs.
So would you say maybe that's one of the most important things you've done for your recovery?
Yes. Honestly, I can say even after prison and now in my life, if I look at the people I've connected with, Ryan Hampton, who's a good friend of mine, Sean O'Donnell, Garrett, Chad Sabora, people I've connected with, Eric Moffat, they're people that I think are like-minded,
right?
And don't, and not all, and there's a lot of them that aren't recovery people, that are normies that just don't want to use drugs. Like, imagine that. Like, I thought, wow, there's people that don't drink at all.
Why would you not want to?
Right? Why would you not want to? Right.
I talk about my wife. Like, my wife's never done anything, and I'm like, when I met her, she was like a unicorn. Yeah. I'm like, what? People, how are you at 30 and you don't have a felony?
Right, exactly.
I'm like, where the heck did you hide?
My wife's a normie. But she can have a glass of wine, or a cigarette at New Year's, and that's it. I'm like, what's the point?
Right.
What a waste.
I'm like, but where's your next one?
Right, exactly. I
was talking to somebody yesterday, and she's engaged to a guy that drinks, and she said their first date, she's in recovery, and their date was New Year's Eve, and they went out, and he had 2 beers, and then he ordered a soda and sat around and talked. And she's like, after about an hour, she's like, aren't you going to order another beer? And he's like, no, why would I do that? She's like, it was the weirdest thing to me.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that's one thing that I do want to get, even with drugs. Yeah. I know people that use in moderation, and they don't have the same affliction that I have. If you look at the body I have now, when I got sober, I need to gain 50 pounds. I gained 120 because I don't do things in moderation. Right. It's just not in my DNA, which also makes us amazing recovery advocates, because we don't do that in moderation
either. Absolutely not.
So let's see. Is there one thing you do every day that helps you maintain your recovery? Like, do you have any rituals?
So my ritual in the mornings, I get up and the first thing I do is grab this might sound silly, but I get up every day. First thing I do is get my coffee. I sit down at my desk and I pop open my laptop and I go through my social media feed. And but one of the first things I do almost every day is, of course, I use social media in probably a much different way than maybe some, maybe not. I have like 4,700 friends, which they're not really friends, but it's a great network. But I go through so every day. In fact, I forgot to this morning because I'm in Vegas because I didn't have my normal routine. I got my coffee though, but just not the laptop. Anyways, I go and first thing I do is I wish whoever's on my list, they all get wished happy birthday.
Okay.
And then I go through and I just look at has anyone, because a lot of times, algorithm on Facebook, I found that now because I type in words like recovery all the time, or addiction all the time, or opioids all the time, the first things I see on my newsfeed are like, I just celebrated 10 years of recovery. Today's my sobriety day.
Right.
So those come up first because of the algorithms.
That's pretty neat.
Which is cool. So I see those and I always make sure I acknowledge those, even if it's someone I don't even really know. They're just but they set up today's my 10 year. They see the 10, the X, and I make sure I actually not just like or love the comment. I actually write a comment. I'll write congrats and then some hashtag read to recover. I think that really helps me. And I know people appreciate that. They wouldn't have put it up there if they didn't want to acknowledge it, right? And so I like acknowledging that.
I think everybody likes an attaboy.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So what keeps you from going back to those old behaviors?
Yeah, I think self-freedom, the word I said before. But no, it's more than that. It's that I have now, I'm one of my favorite treatment modalities is called, and you'll know it, but listeners may, stages of change.
Right.
So I love that. Like I've done presentations on it. I think I always, when I meet people, what stage of change, I put them in a stage, like,
right.
And no matter what it is, not substance use disorder, just things like kind of a bad habit of mine. But so pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, maintenance. And then sometimes relapse may fall in there. Doesn't have to. And then I learned there's another stage, what I call a seventh stage. About 10 years ago, or I discovered it about 5 years ago when I was in college. I did a presentation. It's called the transcendence. And wow, so that's that word. Just think about transcendence for a minute. What does it mean, right? So you can Google it or look it up. So it means that you've become such a different person that it's nearly impossible, or there's no way that you can return to that old person. And so I always say, I think I've transcended. I don't see how it'd be. I'm not saying it couldn't happen because I know it's still inside of me. I know all it would take would be one drink or one line of cocaine and probably be off to the races. So that's why I don't risk it. I don't.
Well, why?
Because my life is so great now.
No, what I was saying, exactly. That's what I was saying is, why would you? I have that conversation with people. I'm like, I'll never go back. No, don't get me wrong. I mean, I died 3 times in a car wreck. That's how I got started on opioids. Yeah. I had a meth problem before, but I came out of a coma on a morphine trip. And maybe but why would I intentionally put something in my body that's going to cause me to, to lose your significant other, to lose your career, to lose your hobbies, to, ultimately end up back in jail or prison? What could possibly make you risk that? And I hear people that are like, well, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Really? Because I've got a daughter. I know I'm not going to strangle my daughter to death. And I know that I'm not going to do anything that would risk me never spending time with my kids again.
Well, I think that's a great point. People, and obviously in the world we live in, like you and I are very socially engaged. And you hear people, I don't read the comment section, right, of those posts and I do. And they should all
get trapped in them sometimes.
Yes. Oh my God, they should all be dead. They made their own choice. Well, all those things, And I tell people, like, my favorite thing is says, you're right. When I was 5 years old playing in the sandbox and with all the neighborhood kids, we started to say, hey, what do you want to do when you grow up? And we heard policeman, fireman, lawyer, doctor, president of the United States. But when it came to around me, no, Randy said addict. And I want to lose everything.
Convict.
Right. That's what I want. I want to pick that. I want to lose everything. I want to die or near death a couple times. Like, that sounds fun. And I want to go to prison. Like, perfect. Sign me up. So I say to people, I said, so think about that. It's like, you're right. I didn't choose that. Like, nobody would choose that. Like, so stop telling me that I'm a moral failing and I made a bad decision. I'm not going to lie. The first time when I sat down that day at that table when I was 13 or 14 years old, that graduation party, and I drank alcohol, I made a choice, to drink that day. I didn't know. We had the DARE program. No offense. I didn't know what the effects, and I didn't have any genetic history. Like, I knew I was adopted, but at that point I didn't know any of my family history. And I'm not saying that would change my trajectory, but had I been armed with a little bit more tools of education, like, hey, you come from an entire family that struggles with substance use issues. When you use or pick up or start to experiment, you're at a much higher risk because of your predisposition. I'm not saying I would have stopped, but I wasn't given a choice.
Right. And we've already talked about the gifts of recovery. So, if you could travel back in time, and you just kind of talked about it a little bit, I think, about the education piece, and talk to yourself the day before you used, what would you say to yourself?
Well, so if I could do that now with the knowledge I have, I would probably tell myself, like, hey, this is going to put your life in a trajectory on a path that you may not be able to come back from or return from. Like, so I'm not, I'm not a fan of, like, I don't like to tell people what to do because we know how well that works out. So even if I go back in time, I don't think I'd want to tell myself what to do, but I would definitely say to myself, like, hey, Randy, if you do this, I'm letting you know that this is the real possible consequences of this action. And are you willing to put yourself on that trajectory? That's probably what I'd tell myself. That simply, probably, too.
Yeah, I feel like we lie to kids. I speak at schools on occasion, and I always start off the exact same way. Hi, my name is David. I'm a person in long-term recovery.
Yeah.
What that means for me, da 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 da. And then I'm like, they brought me in here to talk to you about drugs, and I want to let you know right now, I love drugs, and I loved the way drugs make me feel. And then I stop and I look around.
Right.
And I see teachers like whispering to each other, like eyes
what did we bring in here?
Wide open. And then I say, but I hate the person that turned me into over time, and that's what I'm here to talk to you about.
Right.
Because I feel like sometimes, like I was lied to. Yeah. Drugs are horrible, and honestly, I tell people I didn't have a drug problem. I had a drug solution because I had tons of trauma.
Right.
And whenever I used, it treated that trauma for me. So I think if we were more honest also, maybe we would have a little more success. Instead of drugs are bad, I smoke weed, and I'm like, hey, that was amazing. I wonder what cocaine's like. So yeah, I definitely think that we could do a lot better in educating our youth, educating our parents.
And not just, I'm a fan, like we should have curriculums, right? Evidence-based practice, our latest catchword in our field.
Right.
I'm not saying that's not a bad idea. However, I'm saying we have this program in Minnesota, and people don't like who funds it, and that's fine. It's Minnesota Adult and Teen Challenge, and people have thoughts about their programs, right? That's fine, but it's called Know the Truth, and they're not a religious program. It's an adolescent prevention program,
right?
That they don't bring religion in. They go into schools. They go into about 200 to 300 schools a year, and usually the health classes in the school. They go in there and they bring in a young person, someone between the age of 18 and 25, that's in recovery from
huge.
and have them talk to them like, this is what happened to me when I started using, what it did for. They just bring those real life lived experiences, and I'm telling you what, the impact that I've been in I've participated and got to go there because I'm friends with the people that run the program, and it's huge. And so to see when a young person's talking to another young person about recovery and things like that, I think it's huge. So I think it's great. That's the key right there. But that's evidence-based practice to me. I don't care what you want to say. That's evidence-based practice.
Well, that's awesome. Randy, I want to thank you for your time. We made it through our 10 questions.
Wow.
And really quickly, now you have something that's called Bold North Consulting, correct?
Bold North Recovery and Consulting.
Okay. I'll let you plug yourself really quick.
Thank you. So I've been working in treatment for a while now as a first an intern, then a temporary license, and now licensed alcohol and drug counselor in Minnesota. And I honestly, primary care, I thought I really would love it, and I hated it. And I love the clients. I worked at the same treatment center where I went to treatment. And I had the same office my counselor had, which was weird, but cool. But the problem is our documentation requirements, and this is probably the same in most states, is so overwhelming. We sit at a computer for 70% of our time and do paperwork.
Right.
And that's not what I became a counselor for. I knew I'd have to do that, but I was thinking it'd be 40% or maybe even 50% of my time I would be out doing paperwork. I have expectations of that, so that's kind of what they prepare us for in school. So I said I can't do that anymore. My wife, I was losing sleep. I was just stressed about. I couldn't keep up, and I don't work well behind. That's not how I live. If you can live in that space, you're fine. But if you can't, you're screwed. So I decided to step away. I became a overdose prevention manager for the Steve Rummer Hope Network for about a year, where I was a volunteer and a board member for. But that's where I got to do a lot more than naloxone trainings. But then one day I just kind of had enough of that. Attitudes, got in the way. And I just decided it was time for me to make the leap. And so February 27th, I quit with February 26th maybe, and then I quit with an email, which wasn't a very nice thing to do. Whatever.
Divorced by fax.
Yeah, right. And on next day, Bold North Recovery and Consulting was born. And it was really because a friend of mine, I was going to take 2 weeks off and write a business plan and figure out what I wanted to do. But at 6:30 a.m. when I changed my Facebook status, I got a phone. My phone blew up, and people were in shock. Oh my God, you left? Where and why? And one of my good friends, Julie Alexander, called me and said, Randy, what happened? And so I told her, and she's like, she works for a large SAMHSA funded organization. She goes, I have opportunities for you, but you need to be an LLC. And I'm like, I'm driving in a snowstorm, 2 hours in traffic that morning to drop off some Narcan kits at a high school. That I was really excited. We finally implemented a first high school to have Narcan. Anyways, and so I'm like, shit, I got to come up with a name. And so I'm driving. I think I even called my friend Jesse that morning, and I called another friend. I was running names by them. And so it just in a snowstorm driving and stuck in rush hour traffic the name was born. That afternoon I went online, I registered it with the state of Minnesota, bought the domain name, bought all the email addresses, everything. So I spent a crap ton of money that day. And then I was born, and I started. I decided there's 4 things I wanted to do. So I have the 4 pillars of my business that I call it. So now in Minnesota, as a licensed alcohol and drug counselor, I can provide private independent counseling services, which is just new to our state this year.
Right.
So I can hang a shingle. So I'm right now when I'm doing those just assessments basically to get people into treatment. So I can also do the individual counseling and things like that. Counseling services, so peer recovery support services, hugely important, I think. And I'm a CCAR trainer, so the Connecticut Community Addiction Recovery. I can't get their name right ever. CCAR. But I'm a trainer through them, and so this is my thought. I can train recovery coaches or peer recovery specialists, and this is what I tell people all the time. I want to train an army of recovery coaches, and I want them embedded everywhere, in every business, in every school, in every treatment center, in every sober living facility, because that's where substance use disorder occurs, is in all those places. So, and then I also do overdose prevention stuff. I'm still doing trainings and distributing naloxone kits, much smaller scale now, but I'm still doing it. And then my last pillar is advocacy. I really wanted to put lobbying down, but my wife said no. You have to have a different different organization for lobbying. And she goes, plus then you have to do lobby reports and this and that. She goes, but if you put the word advocacy, you can do that stuff and you still probably get paid somewhat and not have to really report anything. Eventually, I think I want to do more lobbying. Well, actually, I think I'm going to skip that step and go. I'm running for office next year, so I'm just going to skip that step and I'm running for either Minnesota State Senate or Minnesota House of Representatives. I haven't made a decision which one yet, but that's my business. So Bold North Recovery and Consulting. I'm based out of my house in Golden Valley, Minnesota. www.boldnorthrecoveryandconsulting.com. I learned how to build a website. I did it myself because I had no money to start this business, really, basically. So that's where we're at. So,
well, that's awesome. Good luck. My last advice for you: if it's set up anything like Missouri, run for state rep and then do your terms there, and then you can bump up to Senate. Yeah. And that way you can do your terms there too.
The Senate bothers me in Minnesota because they have to wear suits on the floor. You guys that know me know I'm a hat and t-shirt kind of guy. So
absolutely. Well, thank you very much for your time, and man, let's mobilize some recovery.
Sounds good. Thanks, David.
Thank you. In closing, I just want to thank you for listening to the podcast. Please join us every week for new episodes. If you want to connect with us further, if you have any questions, topics you'd like to hear in the future, or maybe would like to be on the podcast sometime, you can connect with us at betterlifeandrecovery.com. There's the Better Life and Recovery page on Facebook, or you can, we're on Twitter, BLIR_NPO. Also, this podcast is part of the Studio DNA Podcast Network. You can find out more about the network at studiodna.media. Thanks a lot. Y'all have a great week.